What happens when Justin Bieber walks on a live daytime TV expecting a supportive conversation about healing, and instead finds himself answering questions that reopen wounds he never planned to discuss on air? Make sure to subscribe to Fame After Hours and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The applause is warm as he takes his seat at the table on The View. He smiles politely, gives a small wave, then folds his hands together, posture slightly guarded. One of the hosts beams at him. "It's so good to have you here. You look calmer." "Thank you," Justin says softly. "I feel calmer." They start easy, talking about marriage, stepping back from the spotlight, learning to slow down. He speaks carefully, thoughtfully. "I had to learn how to be a person," he says, "not just someone people recognize." Another host nods. "A lot of people feel like they grew up with you. Do you ever feel like you didn't get a normal childhood?" He lets out a quiet breath. "Yeah, definitely. When you see old clips of yourself," she continues, "what do you think?" A pause. Not uncomfortable yet, just reflective. "I feel bad for that kid," he says. The audience softens immediately. "Why?" a host asks gently. "Because everybody had an opinion," he replies. "But nobody really asked if I was okay." Murmurs of sympathy ripple through the room. The more direct host leans forward. "But you also had enormous privilege, fame, money, opportunities. Do you understand why some people struggled to feel sorry for you?" Mixed reactions, a few claps, a few uneasy sounds. Justin nods right away. "Yeah, I do. And there were incidents," she adds carefully. "Public behavior, legal trouble. Do you feel you've truly taken accountability for that time?" Another host quickly interjects. "Okay, It's okay," Justin says quietly. "It's a fair question." He straightens slightly. "I've apologized. I've tried to change my life. That's all I can do." Applause breaks out from parts of the audience. A woman calls out, "We love you." He smiles, visibly relieved. One of the friendlier hosts pivots. "Your wife has been very open about supporting you through difficult years." His expression softens instantly. "She saved my life," he says. "Ah," the audience responds. "I was in a really dark place," he continues. "She loved me when I didn't even like myself." The tone grows heavier, more personal. The direct host asks quietly, "What kind of darkness?" Justin hesitates. "I don't know how much I want to get into on TV. Only what you're comfortable sharing." Another host says reassuringly. He nods, thinking. "I just felt used," he says finally. "Like people cared more about what I could do than who I was." Soft clapping. Some audience members nod. "Did you feel alone?" a host asks. "Very," he says. "I didn't trust anyone. Not even your family?" He pauses longer this time. "I love my family," he says carefully. "But everyone was overwhelmed. Nobody knew how to handle it." There's a quiet understanding in the room. Then the direct host asks the question that shifts everything. "Do you think fame damaged you?" The audience stills. Justin looks down at his hands, rubbing his fingers together before answering. "I think fame magnified things that were already broken," he says quietly. "And do you resent the people who made you famous?" She follows up. Before anyone else can redirect, he answers. "I don't resent the fans," he says. "I resent the system." A murmur spreads across the audience. "What do you mean by that?" she asks, leaning in. Justin looks up, eyes slightly glossy now. "I mean, a lot of people made a lot of money off a kid who needed help." Gasps mix with applause. One host tries to soften it. "The industry can be very tough." "It's more than tough," Justin says, not smiling this time. The table goes quiet. The direct host asks carefully, "Are you saying you were exploited?" The other hosts begin to interrupt. "That's a strong word. Let's be careful." But Justin speaks over the noise, voice tight, emotional. "I'm saying I was a child." Silence. You can hear someone in the audience whisper, "Wow." He swallows, blinking rapidly, composure starting to slip just enough to notice. "And when you're that young," he adds quietly, "you don't even know what's happening to you until it's already happened." No one interrupts this time. The tension sits there, real, heavy, impossible to ignore, as the conversation teeters on the edge of becoming something far more emotional than anyone planned. The silence lingers after Justin Bieber says it. "I was a child." It's not dramatic silence, just the kind that happens when nobody is sure who should speak first. He presses his lips together, blinking a few times, trying to steady himself. One of the warmer hosts finally leans in, voice soft. I think a lot of people forget how young you were. Justin nods, but doesn't smile. Yeah. The direct host, sensing the weight but still pressing forward, asks carefully, do you feel like someone should have stepped in and protected you more? A ripple moves through the audience. Some murmurs, a few claps, a few uneasy shifts. Justin inhales slowly. I think there were people who tried. But, she asks. He hesitates, eyes dropping to the table. But when there's that much money involved, things get complicated. A low MMM spreads across the crowd. Another host quickly jumps in, trying to ease the tension. Fame at that level isn't something most families are prepared for. Exactly, Justin says, grateful for the lifeline. Nobody around me had done that before. We were all figuring it out in real time. Did you feel pressure to keep going even when you were struggling? She asks. He gives a small laugh, not amused, more exhausted. All the time. From who? The direct host presses. He pauses again, longer this time. From everyone, he says finally. Fans, industry, people around me, myself. The audience nods, some clapping softly. And when you try to slow down, another host asks. I didn't really know how, he admits. Everything just kept moving. The direct host leans forward. There were times when you looked visibly unhappy in public. Did anyone ask if you needed to stop? Justin's jaw tightens slightly. Some people did, he says. But stopping wasn't really an option. Why not? He looks up at her, eyes sharper now. Because a lot of people depended on me not stopping. The audience reacts with a mix of, oh wow, and quiet clapping. One host nods sympathetically. You were supporting an entire machine. Yeah, he says, and I didn't even understand that at the time. The tone softens briefly as another host asks, what was the lowest point for you? Justin exhales slowly, shoulders rising and falling. I don't want to get too graphic, he says. But there were nights I didn't think I was going to make it. The audience goes still. Someone gasps quietly. The hosts exchange quick glances. That's very serious, one says gently. Yeah, Justin replies. It was. The direct host lowers her voice. Did you ask for help? He nods. Eventually. What made you finally reach out? You think for a moment. I realized I couldn't fix it on my own. Applause breaks out. Supportive, encouraging. And that's when your wife came into your life? A host asks. She was already there, he says. But that's when I let her really see how bad it was. A lot of partners might not have stayed, the host says. He shakes his head. She's stronger than people think. There's a warm reaction from the audience. But the direct host shifts the conversation again. Some critics say celebrities talk about struggle while still living extremely privileged lives. What would you say to someone who thinks your pain doesn't compare to everyday people's problems? A few audience members groan softly. Justin doesn't get defensive. He nods slowly. I understand that perspective, he says. Pain isn't a competition. The room quiets, listening. Just because someone has money doesn't mean they don't hurt, he continues. It just means their problems look different. Applause builds, stronger this time. And sometimes, he adds quietly, it can make it harder to be believed. That line hits hard. Several people clap immediately. The direct host studies him. Do you feel like people still don't believe you? Justin shrugs slightly. Some do. Some don't. I can't control that. Another host steps in gently. What matters is you're here now, healthy. He gives a small nod. Healthier. She smiles. Fair. Then the direct host asks the question that shifts the tone again. Do you ever feel angry? Justin looks surprised. Angry, yes. At the people, the system, the situation. He sits back thinking. I used to be angry all the time, he admits. Now I'm more sad about it. The audience murmurs softly. Sad for yourself? She asks. Sad for that kid, he says. And for other kids going through the same thing. That sparks louder applause. One host nods emphatically. There are so many young performers now. Yeah, Justin says. And I worry about them. Haven't he reached out to you for advice? Some have, he says. I always tell them to protect their peace. And to have at least one person around who doesn't need anything from them. The audience reacts warmly to that. But the direct host isn't finished. She leans in slightly, voice calm but probing. Do you think the industry has learned from what happened to you? Justin's expression changes. Not hostile, just tired. I hope so, he says. But I don't know. Why the doubt? He gives a faint, humorless smile. Because the machine is still running. A murmur spreads through the room. Another host quickly tries to balance things. There are also a lot of good people in entertainment. Absolutely. Justin says immediately. I've met amazing people. But the system itself? The direct host asks. He looks down, then back up. It's not designed to slow down for someone's mental health. Silence again, heavy, thoughtful. A woman in the audience calls out, "Tell the truth." Applause follows. Justin gives a small appreciative nod, but doesn't smile. And when you look back now, a host asks gently, "Do you wish it had never happened?" That question hangs in the air, complicated and dangerous. He takes a long breath before answering. No, he says slowly, because it made me who I am. A few people clap, but, he adds, voice quieter, I wish I hadn't had to hurt that much to get here. The room goes still again. One host reaches across the table slightly. That's very honest. Justin nods, eyes glistening again under the lights. I'm just trying to be real, he says. And you can feel it. The conversation has moved past polite talk show territory into something raw, unscripted, and increasingly difficult to steer back to safety. The atmosphere stays heavy, almost fragile, as Justin Bieber finishes speaking. No one rushes in right away. He rubs his hands together slowly, like he's trying to warm them, eyes lowered to the table. One of the gentler hosts speaks first, voice soft. I really appreciate how honest you're being. Justin nods without looking up. I promised myself I would be. The direct host watches him closely. Does it ever scare you to be this open on live television? He lets out a small breath, half laugh, half sigh. Yeah, a little. Why do it then? She asks. He looks up now, meeting her eyes. Because pretending I'm fine almost destroyed me. The audience reacts immediately. Loud applause, some people standing briefly before sitting back down. Another host nods. That's powerful. Justin shrugs slightly. It's just true. She continues gently. You've talked about feeling used. Do you still feel that way about people from that time? The temperature in the room dips again. I don't hold grudges, he says carefully. But I remember. Remember what? The direct host presses. How alone I felt, he says, even in rooms full of people. A quiet murmur spreads through the audience. But you were surrounded by teams, managers, security, she says. How does someone feel alone with all that around them? Justin's expression tightens, not angry, more like exhausted. Because none of those people can hug you and mean it, he says quietly. That hits hard. Audible gasps. Strong applause. One host puts a hand over her heart. Wow. He swallows, eyes shining again. Most of them needed something from me. The direct host asks, did you ever feel like you couldn't trust anyone? All the time, he answers instantly. I kept waiting for people to leave once I wasn't useful. Another host jumps in quickly. That must make real relationships very difficult. It did, he says. Still does sometimes. And your wife changed that? She asks. Justin nods. She didn't want anything from me except me. Ah, the audience responds warmly. But the direct host circles back again, tone calm but pointed. Some critics say you still benefit from the system you're criticizing. You still sell music, tour, earn millions. How do you reconcile that? A few audience members groan, sensing the tension returning. Justin doesn't react immediately. He leans back slightly, thinking. I've asked myself that question, he says slowly. And, she asks. I try to do it differently, he says. Healthier boundaries. More control. Saying no. Do people accept no from you? She asks. He gives a faint smile. Not always. Light laughter breaks the tension for a moment. But I say it anyway now, he adds. Applause. Another host nods approvingly. Growth. Justin smiles a little more genuinely. Yeah, hard-earned. Then the direct host asks, quieter this time. Do you feel like the public ever turned on you? He pauses. This one clearly lands deep. Yeah, he says. There was a period where it felt like everyone hated me. Some audience members murmur, no, softly. And that hurt, she asks. Of course it hurt, he says, voice tightening. I was still a kid, trying to figure things out in public. Do you think you were judged more harshly than others? She continues. Before he can answer, another host interjects. I think we all remember how intense that coverage was. Justin nods gratefully. It was a lot. The direct host persists. But some would say your behavior fueled that coverage. The table stiffens. Justin takes a slow breath through his nose. I'm not saying I was perfect, he says. I'm saying I didn't know how to cope. Silence. And when you don't know how to cope, he continues, you make bad decisions. A man in the audience calls out, we all do. Applause follows. Justin gives a small appreciative nod. Did you ever feel like giving up on everything? A host asks softly. His eyes flicker downward again. Yes, he says quietly. The room goes still. Giving up as in leaving the industry, she clarifies. He hesitates. More than that, he says. A collective intake of breath ripples through the audience. The hosts exchange quick looks, serious now. But you're here, one says gently. Yeah, he replies, because people didn't give up on me. Applause breaks out, strong, emotional. And because I realized I wanted to live, he adds, voice barely above a whisper. Some audience members wipe their eyes. The direct host softens for the first time, her tone genuinely gentle. I'm really glad you're here. Justin nods, swallowing. Me too. A lighter host tries to shift the mood slightly. Do you feel hopeful now? He thinks for a moment. Some days more than others, he says honestly. Healing isn't linear. Applause again, appreciative of the candor. And what does a hard day look like for you now? She asks. Just heavy, he says. But I have tools now. People. Faith. Therapy. Therapy is important, the host says firmly. Let's normalize that. Loud clapping. Justin smiles faintly. Please. Then the direct host asks one more question, quieter but sharp. Do you forgive the people who hurt you? Justin freezes for a fraction of a second. He looks down, then back up, eyes glassy but steady. I'm trying to, he says. Not there yet, she asks. He shakes his head slightly. Forgiveness takes time when the wounds are deep. Silence settles again. And do you think they deserve forgiveness? She presses. Another host quickly says, okay, we don't need to. But Justin answers anyway. I don't know if it's about what they deserve, he says slowly. It's about what I need to be free. That line lands like a weight dropping. The audience erupts into applause. Long, loud, emotional. Justin sits there quietly while it washes over him, blinking rapidly, jaw tight. When the clapping fades, he adds one last thing, voice low. I just hope people see me as a human being now, not a headline. No one interrupts. No jokes. No pivot. Just a room full of people realizing they've witnessed something far more personal than a typical daytime interview, and sensing that whatever comes next could either heal the moment or break it wide open. For several long seconds after Justin Bieber says he just wants to be seen as human, no one speaks. He blinks hard, jaw tight, then presses his lips together as if trying to hold everything in. The audience is completely silent, not awkward, just deeply focused on him. One of the kinder hosts finally reaches over and rests her hand lightly on his forearm. I think more people see you that way than you realize. Soft applause spreads across the studio. Justin nods, voice low. I hope so. The direct host, noticeably softer now, leans in. If the younger version of you could see you today, what do you think he'd say? Justin lets out a slow breath, eyes dropping to the table again. I think he'd be relieved, he says. Relieved that we made it. A few audience members audibly react. A quiet oh, followed by warm clapping. And what would you say to him? She asks. He swallows. I'd tell him, you don't have to perform all the time. You don't have to earn love. The audience responds with an emotional wave of awe and applause. And I tell him it's okay to rest, he adds quietly. Nobody told me that back then. Another host wipes at her eye. That's powerful. Justin shrugs slightly, trying to deflect the attention. It's just what I needed to hear. The mood softens. A friendlier host smiles warmly. So what does life actually look like for you now, day to day? He gives a small laugh, tension finally easing. Honestly, pretty boring. Laughter breaks through the heaviness. And that's a good thing? She asks. The best thing, he says. I wake up, have coffee, hang out with my wife, go for walks, normal stuff. No chaos. That sounds wonderful, she says. Peace is way better than excitement, he replies. At least for me. Applause again, lighter, relieved. But the direct host asks one final serious question. Do you worry that opening up like this will bring another wave of scrutiny? Justin pauses, considering. Probably, he says honestly. But hiding didn't make it go away either. So this is you choosing vulnerability? Yeah, he says. I'd rather be real and misunderstood than fake and comfortable. That line gets a strong reaction. Loud applause, a few cheers. One host nods emphatically. That's growth. Justin smiles faintly. Hard-earned growth. The conversation begins to wind down. The hosts thank him for his honesty, for trusting them with something so personal. He thanks them back, standing as the audience rises into a full standing ovation, louder and longer than when he first walked out. On The View, moments like that don't happen often. Some audience members are wiping tears, others clapping overhead, a few just watching him quietly as if trying to process what they just witnessed. As the cameras pull back, he hugs one host, then another. The direct host shakes his hand first, formal, then unexpectedly pulls him into a brief hug. The audience reacts warmly to that small gesture. Backstage, according to later reports shared by audience members online, the atmosphere is calm but emotional. Crew members thank him for being open. One producer reportedly tells him, "That was one of the realest interviews we've ever had." He reportedly nods, says, "Thank you," and stays for a few minutes talking quietly with the hosts off camera before being escorted out. Outside the studio, fans who have been waiting behind barriers cheer when he emerges. He waves briefly, gives a small smile, but doesn't stop for interviews. Observers say he looked tired, not in a negative way, just emotionally drained. Within minutes of the broadcast, clips flood social media. The line, "I was a child," spreads fastest, shared across platforms with millions of views in hours. Support pours in from fans. People forget he grew up in public. That was incredibly brave. You could see the pain was real. Mental health advocates highlight his comments about therapy and loneliness, calling the conversation important for normalizing emotional struggles among men and young performers. But criticism appears just as quickly. He still has wealth most people dream of. Celebrities always talk about hardship. This felt uncomfortable for daytime TV. Debate explodes across comment sections. News outlets replay the most tense exchanges between him and the direct host, analyzing whether the questions crossed a line or were necessary for honest dialogue. Former child stars and musicians begin posting their own reactions, some expressing solidarity, others staying neutral, but acknowledging the pressure of growing up famous. By evening, hashtags related to the interview trend worldwide. Later that day, Justin posts a simple message on his social media accounts. "Thank you for listening. Healing is ongoing. No drama. No follow-up explanation. Just that." Fans flood the comments with heart emojis and supportive messages. Critics respond too, continuing the debate. But even many skeptics admit the moment didn't feel rehearsed. The hosts addressed the interview on the next day's episode. One says it was deeply moving. Another acknowledges the tension, but emphasizes that difficult questions can lead to meaningful conversations. The direct host clarifies she meant no harm, saying she believes audiences deserve honesty from public figures. Viewers remain divided, not about whether it was dramatic, but about what it revealed. Some call it healing. Others call it uncomfortable. Many say it felt like watching a private conversation happen in public. What most people agree on is that it didn't feel staged or polished. It felt raw, human, and unpredictable, the kind of television moment that people talk about long after it ends. If you watched this interview, what did you think? Did Justin's honesty change how you see him, or did the questions go too far? Share your opinion in the comments, and subscribe to Fame After Hours for more real talk show stories.